So you're running a business in Canada, and you're looking at importing from China. It's a huge step, but let's be honest, figuring out the actual shipping can feel, well, kind of overwhelming. Don't worry, we're going to break it all down and give you a super clear, practical guide to get your goods from there to here without the headache.
Okay, let's just dive right in. The shipping method you choose, it's going to hit your costs, your delivery times, and frankly, your own stress levels. So our goal here is to walk through this step by step so you can make the absolute best choice for your business.
All right, first things first. Let's get a bird's eye view of the landscape. There are really only 4 main ways to get your stuff from China to Canada. Getting these straight is the foundation for, well, everything else.
I want you to think of this slide as your ultimate cheat sheet. Seriously, it lays out the 4 big players: air, sea, express courier, and this other thing called DDP. We're comparing them on what really matters: cost, speed, and what they're actually good for. Kind of keep this mental picture in your head as we dig into the details.
You know, pretty much every decision you're going to make in shipping boils down to one fundamental trade-off. This is the first big crossroads you have to face: how fast you need it versus how much are you willing to pay.
Yeah, this seesaw nails it, right? On one end, you've got pure speed with express and air freight. On the other, you've got maximum savings with sea shipping. The real key here is figuring out which side of the seesaw you're on before you go any further.
Okay, so with that big picture in mind, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We'll kick things off with the speed demons, the fastest options out there.
Air freight is your go-to when you need that perfect balance of speed and, being able to actually ship a decent amount of stuff. Think high-value electronics, or maybe a quick restock on a hot-selling item for a holiday sale. It's for those shipments that aren't just a tiny box, but absolutely cannot wait a month to arrive.
And when we say speed, we mean it. We're talking an airport-to-airport transit time of just 5 to 10 days. That's a pretty reliable window, and it lets you plan your inventory way better. Just a little pro tip, remember that peak seasons, like right before Christmas, can slow things down a day or two, so it never hurts to build in a little buffer.
So where are your goods actually going to land? Well, they'll arrive at one of Canada's major cargo airports. Now, Vancouver and Toronto are the 2 giants for sure, but depending on where your business is, your main entry point could easily be Montreal, Calgary, or even Edmonton.
Look, to keep it super simple, here's a fantastic rule of thumb. If your final destination is anywhere on the West Coast, Vancouver is almost always your best bet. If you're in Central or Eastern Canada, you'll want to be looking at flights into Toronto or Montreal. Following this one little tip can save you a ton of money on domestic trucking.
All right, let's totally switch gears and talk about the undisputed heavyweight champion of cost savings: sea freight. If you're bringing in furniture, machinery, or just a massive volume of products to stock your warehouse, this is your answer, no question.
But remember that trade-off we talked about? The incredible savings come at the cost of time. A typical sea shipment is going to take anywhere from 25 to 45 days, and that's just from port to port. This means planning ahead is absolutely 100% critical, especially around big holidays like Chinese New Year when things can literally shut down for weeks.
And just like with the airports, picking the right seaport really matters. For most shipments headed to Western and Central Canada, you're going to use Vancouver or maybe Prince Rupert. For the East, it's usually Montreal or Halifax. It's all about making that last leg of the journey, the part on land, as short and cheap as possible.
But what if your shipment is really small, like a single product sample or an urgent document? That is exactly where express couriers like DHL, FedEx, or UPS come in. For pretty much anything under 10 kilograms, where speed is absolutely everything, this is the easiest door-to-door option, period.
Okay, so we've looked at the main ways to move stuff: plane, ship, courier. But there's another way to approach this that's less about the vehicle and more about the service, and that's the all-in-one DDP solution.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If the very thought of dealing with customs brokers, trying to figure out HS codes, and calculating duties makes your head spin, then you're gonna want to listen up. DDP stands for Delivered Duty Paid, and it's basically a premium service you can add to either an air or a sea shipment.
So with DDP, your shipping partner handles literally everything from A to Z. They pick up the goods from your supplier's factory, they manage all the export paperwork, they handle the international transport, they clear it through Canadian customs, they pay all the duties and taxes for you, and they deliver it right to your doorstep. It is the closest thing you will ever get to set it and forget it shipping. One single price, one person to call.
Okay, we've laid out all the options. Now, let's tie it all together. This last section is basically a checklist to help you take everything we've talked about and confidently pick the right method for your exact shipment.
First question you gotta ask yourself, just how big is my cargo? Is it a tiny box under 10 kilos? That's pointing straight to express. Is it a few pallets? Air freight's probably your move. Is it big, bulky, and enough to fill up a whole container? That's screaming sea freight.
Second, what's your timeline looking like? If you need those goods in your hands like next week, you're looking at air. No other way. But if you've planned way ahead and you can wait over a month, then you can unlock all those sweet cost savings of sea.
Third, let's talk money. How tight is your budget?
For the absolute rock-bottom lowest cost per item, sea freight is just unbeatable. But if you've got a bit more wiggle room in the budget for a much faster delivery, air freight is that happy medium.
And finally, you've got to be honest with yourself about this one. How much do you really want to get involved in the logistics? Are you comfortable calling up customs brokers and trucking companies? Then standard air or sea is totally fine. Or do you just want a completely hands-off, fully managed solution? Then a DDP service is your answer.
So let's just boil it all down one last time. You use air for speed. You use sea for cost. You use express for tiny, urgent things, and you choose a DDP service for any of them when you just want someone else to handle the entire thing. See? When you break it down like that, it's really not so complicated after all.
You know, getting a handle on your supply chain is one of the biggest leaps you can take in growing your business. And now that you really understand the options, you have the power to make smarter, more profitable decisions. So the only question left is, what's your next move?